That's it. That launches commodities conversation for this morning. And joining me for that is Bolanle Agbaje. Bolanle, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for
having
having
me. That
me.
was the federal government expressing plans, to increase the production of cashew nuts in the country.
Which we do produce.
Which we do produce, yes. And they're saying that they want to up it to 500,000 metric tons per annum. Currently, it's at 260,000 metric tons. I mean, it's something we should applaud, but I mean, it will remain mere words except we see the action plans.
Exactly.
That's will bring this to come to pass.
Yes, because obviously right now the talk everywhere is trying to, find what we can actually export to more or less help the whole economy and particularly our exchange rates. So I'm sure that, those are plans. They're currently producing very close to what we produce for cocoa at the moment. And it would be nice to see that double if it does, because definitely to support our reserve balance at the moment.
And then we also see that currently that cashew industry currently generates a total of 26 billion naira annually as foreign exchange.
Huge.
Yeah, huge. So why do we still lack foreign exchange?
No, so I think, the value chain, and obviously you still have corruption playing into that, but generating that amount, obviously not all of that amount would go into, the reserves. From that, you would remove, all of the costs, the payment to, from the value chain, so the farmers to the middlemen and to the final, people that do export this particular product. So, what do we have left after that? But nonetheless, it's still something great, and it's something that we actually should, the government should focus on, and not just cashew. There's so many opportunities for many agricultural products, within the Nigerian economy.
So they're having a conference now in Abuja. What, from your perspective, from all your findings in talking about commodities, should be their priority at this time?
So I think the priority would be, obviously when you have conferences like this, you have, many people that are interested in, for those that are already existing in the cashew space and the newcomers. So it's more or less to capture this group of people and more or less, follow the value chain to see how much of this cashew that these individuals produce. And obviously focus on what their problems are, what the challenges they're currently facing, and try to alleviate, those challenges. I'm sure one of the major challenges will be the loans, that these farmers have access to, or these these stakeholders have access to. And obviously, what they do face in terms of technology of building or of increasing the production of cashew, and also storage of, because I'm sure cashew has to be dried. So the storage of this particular agricultural produce is something that they can also focus on. So all of that within, majorly, knowing who are these players in the market is what, I think they should focus on.
And I do hope they have a lot of investors there, because, something that's a problem to one person may actually be a source of revenue or investment for another person.
Yes.
So if you have a lot of investors and you have people who can act as off-takers in the value chain. So if a farmer can just do a little bit of this.
And then you have someone else that would off-take that and, turn it into something bigger. Those are the benefits that you do get from, or synergies that you get from, conferences like this. But I think, in Nigeria, most of those conferences are left at conferences.
Exactly,
in the sense that they just, speak about, what the advantages or disadvantages that,
and plans on paper.
Plans on paper, and they don't follow through. Having like a chain of, or a portal to house these, investors or these stakeholders, in that particular space is something that they can actually take from this particular conference.
And there's something that they do in Mile 12. I don't know if they do it in other markets. At least I'm familiar with the system in Mile 12. A lot of the people you see who sell things like tomatoes and yam in Mile 12. So they work with the farmers. They give them the funds. Work with them from the planting, the seedling and all of that, going through the stages. So it's like, I'm just giving you money. We have an agreement. agreement.
Yes.
When you're done, I will sell it. So it's like a complete cycle.
Yes, such a fantastic initiative.
Yes.
But I think why that is not feeding into other, parts of the economy is because it's not on the large scale. You obviously have, very few. I'm sure it'll probably be like 5% when you're looking at, the calculations or the percentage of people that are doing this versus the number of people that should do this to boost the economy significantly.
Well, leaving that, we have not very good news for Nigeria. Nigeria has lost its place. I think this is the second month as the leading oil producer in Africa.
Angola is.
Yes. And then we couldn't even produce up to 1 million barrels.
Yes, we produced about 970 barrels per day, which is not great. And that's owing to, the oil thefts, vandalism, strikes here and there. These are some of the challenges that haven't been, addressed by the government. And it's quite sad. I think there was a report released that from, January up until August, we had lost about 13, million barrels, which translates to about 600 billion naira. It's huge. And talking about this at this time is not very nice.
Talking about this at a time when our foreign reserve is dwindling, we have subsidy to pay, our debt is increasing, we're talking of still borrowing how much to fund the budget.
All of it. And it's quite sad to be speaking about this again, so it calls to question that if they're not getting oil, which is, has been the topic of discussion, the main commodity in Nigeria, what do we then say for other, particular commodities that we're trying to improve on? Because dealing with oil thefts and vandalism in Niger Delta seems like something that the government can easily handle.
So the federal government, the presidency, has created a committee. The committee that's supposed to deal with oil theft.
It's supposed to be strong force to deal with that kind of thing. It's not necessarily a committee, because I'm sure for the past, few years there has been, talks and negotiations with the Niger Delta in particular. But right now it's brute force that I believe would, make a significant impact on that particular.
Yeah, maybe.
And as a result, a lot of upstream, companies have already, pulled out or reduced their stake, and it's not really great for the country. This year alone, we had already seen significant boosts in oil prices, and unfortunately, we didn't.
It's not reflecting in our revenue.
Yeah, we didn't reach the optimal benefits of, that particular price. I think average of about between 90 to 100 dollars per barrel, and we definitely didn't benefit.
So I'm thinking, last year I was on Business Morning, and I don't remember discussing the issue of oil theft as much as I've discussed it this year.
Yes.
So I think it means that the issue is becoming a bigger problem.
Yes. It's becoming a bigger problem because security in general is becoming a bigger problem. There's poverty that has increased significantly this particular year, owing from COVID, from the Russian invasion. That has already fed significantly on Nigeria, because at the end of the day, we're a global economy. So we already knew that, security would be an issue. Oil theft is one of that, and it would just get worse.
You don't think it's because that space has been left unattended to? Perhaps that has also given people the idea that, well, people are doing it and getting away with it, especially when we hear that it seems like the high-powered people are also involved.
Yes.
So people are getting protection against, being punished.
But in particular, for example, the Trans-Niger pipeline had about 150 holes along the Niger Delta, pathway. And for crying out loud, it's sad that there's no camera, for example, lack of infrastructure to actually catch and make sure that this, doesn't happen. So I think, I don't want to believe it's a deliberate, attempt to not solve that particular problem, because there are lots of people in power benefiting from this. But at the same time, just infrastructure like that would actually ease and make it easy for, and even increase in security. Like you have, people guarding that particular pipeline to make sure that...
Because cameras can be destroyed.
Yes, cameras can be destroyed. But if you're following up with cameras, obviously cameras can't work for themselves. You obviously have, you need to have, the people actually watching this particular movement or what happens on the camera camera on a daily basis. So doing that, I think is becoming a huge problem for the country.
And as long as we keep having these issues, inflation will keep surging.
Yes.
FPC puts it at 20.4. We're waiting for the MBS.
Yes. Unfortunately, in the month of August, we had seen, prices skyrocket. Obviously, the holiday period as well. The fact that, diesel prices are still high, transportation costs is still, all of that we still speak about that contributes to high commodity prices are still there and lingering. So we don't expect that prices to decline anytime soon. Unfortunately, that's the prediction that we have at the moment. And we do hope that going forward, although we've seen the start of the harvest season in this month, and we do hope that, that translates into a bit of lower prices across, domestic commodity prices.
Meanwhile, the U.S. is expecting its inflation to decline.
Yes, they're doing the...
They still have energy surging.
They definitely do. But, I think the government is working tirelessly to make sure that this is not a lingering problem. The Fed has already hiked, policy rates, and I think is still expected to do so in the coming months.
Okay. So what else? You talked about harvest period now.
Yes,
what else is going on in there?
Yes, so cocoa is, good news from cocoa. We do expect that, this will be a buoyant harvest. In 6 states in particular, we have Osun, Ogun, Oyo, Ondo, Edo, and Abia. And
I thought Cross River used to be.
Yes, but in this particular harvest, it's not, part of what we're seeing now. We do expect that, we reach that particular production target of about 270,000 metric tons. Harvest is good. Rainfall, the rainfall that we had seen between the last week in August and the first week in September actually helped to increase harvest. But I think the only downside risk is the fact that if rainfall does continue, then it would affect the drying of the cocoa pods, and that might not necessarily be great. But so far, so good. The news out there is that, we do expect a buoyant harvest.
So while farmers are happy with the rainfall, I mean, the flood that it's causing in the country.
You can't necessarily have extreme weathers. Extreme weathers are not necessarily good for the production of any agricultural produce. You need to have, adequate sunlight, but not too much. A certain amount of rainfall, but not too much. So I think that's just...
find a balance. But do we see, I mean, since we're talking about harvest, do we see food inflation tapering?
Yes, so that's the hope that, some commodities would benefit from this particular harvest season. It would be nice to just watch and see which particular commodities, although you still have all of those prices, the transportation costs, that might not, necessarily allow the prices to fall as it should. But we do expect that, this has just a slight, any slight drop in commodity prices would be welcomed.
Yeah, if we would notice it. But that also brings the issue of preservation, storage facility, and warehousing, because it comes and then everything is out there, and then it goes and the price.
Yeah, many agricultural producers obviously just look for ways to remove from the farm and sell immediately. They're not, they're not trying to spend so much money on storage. You have those that, store to a large extent, but ultimately, when you're talking about the local farmers and, the markets like Mile 12, for example, it's straight from the farm and they sell immediately. So
that's another area for investment. An investor can cash in on that.
Yes, of course. There's so many areas, but when it comes to investment, how secure is my investment? What if I set up something and then some arm of the government comes to, make it frustrating for me to sustain that particular business? And I think that's what many investors are facing.
That's why a lot of people are uncertain and just
very uncertain. Nigeria,
especially now that we are at the edge of a change in administration.
Yes, we are.
All right, Abolale, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts this morning. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right, we're still talking commodities, but this time we'll talk about staple crop economic zone processing. We'll take this conversation further, but that'll be after the break. This is Business Morning on Channel.